everybody wants to get united. Like, what we gotta do is meet everybody on 149th Street at the bench.
Guys, check this out. We got a draw through video we're doing today, or I'm sorry, a draw over video we're doing today, where we're gonna check out some of your guys' amazing graffiti and sketch over some of it and help you establish your fundamentals and gain a better understanding for this amazing art form. So let's not waste any time. Let's hop right into this thing with the very first submission. This is a dope piece. I love these little like streaks of light that go throughout the piece here. This is awesome. And the way they wrap around the letter is really well done as well. I also really enjoy the different lighting that he has on the outline itself. But one way they can improve is by making that lighting more consistent. If we look at this one right here, we'll notice that it's receiving light, right? It's brighter than, say, this one right here or this one right here. However, if we look at a different line that's going in the same angle right there, we notice it's not getting light, it's getting shade. So the lighting here is a bit inconsistent, and we can see that again with the occlusion shadows that they include, right? So you have a little bit of shadow right here in this area, and that occlusion shadow is really nice. It helps to make things pop off, and it also goes really well with this light source because it helps to confirm that our light is coming from the top left. But where things kind of get mixed up is that this occlusion shadow isn't really happening in all the locations that it should be, lending more to that inconsistent lighting that we talked about previously. So the first thing we'd want to do is get our lighting consistent, and that applies not only to the highlights but to the shadows as well. Choose your light source and be as strict as you can with that, because sure, you've achieved a lot of depth here, but you could have achieved a lot more very easily. To give you an idea, this is what it might have looked like with the adjustments we talked about. Also, one thing I really want to point out is in some areas the overlaps get a bit messy. For example, this area and over here as well, where we're not exactly sure what should be overlapping what. Because this outline is a little bit more shaded than this portion of the A, that tells us that this little circle should be tucked underneath the A. By simply defining a more concrete overlap, you not only add even more depth, but you also refine your letter structures as well, making it very clear to the viewer where things are in space. As you can see, we just erased one line, and already we have a lot more clarity towards the bottom of the P. And a similar thing can be done at the top of the A as well. Now, you don't have to necessarily do these things in this way, but it gives you an idea, helps you see where the potential is. Other than that, phenomenal piece. I love the way this looks, man. This is really awesome stuff. Also, great time to let you guys know, everybody will be linked in the description down below. Be sure to go ahead and check them out if you enjoy their work. If this video has been helping you out and you feel like you've learned something, check out our new book in the description down below. It'll teach you a lot more. I'm talking stuff that you won't be able to find anywhere online. It's the only book on the market that teaches you all of graffiti's fundamentals and walks you through how to develop your style if you're more experienced. We have digital copies on our online store, theartistblock.inc, with physical copies over on Amazon. Now let's check out this Throwie right here. A lot of you guys might find yourself in the same exact position where you're kind of getting your Throwie down pat, but something isn't really clicking. So now the question becomes, what is that and how do we fix the problem? First things first, they have their letter name weight pretty well done. It looks like they began to run out of room a little bit around this area. Seems like there's a bit of a wall there, so understandable. If they had a little bit more space, the O would have not been scrunched, but that aside, their letter name weight is pretty good. Where we really start to see things fumble is in their consistency. Not only in their consistency for shapes, for example, a little bit of a rough shape around this area and in various rounded portions, but also in their design. When you're doing a Throwie, your shape language is very important. And essentially what that breaks down to is the shapes you decide are going to be prevalent in your work. Throwies are really dependent on shapes. I mean, they're entirely pretty much built by just that and defined by that. So the shapes we decide for our Throwie have to be consistent because that's going to be what kind of holds the Throwie together and allows it to flow. So with the K, he sets a bit of a precedent. He says, all right, this Throwie is going to have three predominant shapes. We're looking at more square, really harsh, very angular shapes, round, and more triangular. The issue is that only carries through just to the K, and then the R halfway does it, and then no other letter follows suit. So the R has the triangular bit, but there's not really this harsh angular square anywhere. And then from there, all of the other letters are rounded. We want some consistency with this Throwie. I think if you baked in a bit more consistency with these letters, you'd be perfectly fine. You can keep the structures predominantly the same, but more consistent with their shapes, and you'd be set to go. Now, how many shapes you want to include is really up to you. Do you want all three of these shapes to be prevalent in your graffiti? Well, then if so, you have to apply that to just about every single letter. And here's what that might look like. Once again, using your same structures. Do you only want two shapes to be prevalent in your Throwie here? Well, once again, then that has to occur in just about every single letter. Or do you want to just settle for one shape? More rounded shape is what I would suggest. And if so, this is what that would look like. I think if you did that, you'd be perfectly fine. The rest, as far as like how clean your shapes are, that will come with practice. Now from there, we got Chillo Chillo's Throwie. And this one's a strange one for me because in a different image that they have, they actually did a really good job defining their structures a bit more than this. And I feel that's something they should go back to. In one of their Throwies, they did something more like your typical C, where they defined more of the open counter with a vertical line. And then they came around for the rest of their C. And then for their H, they did something more along the lines of that, where they have these horizontal pieces to help define that horizontal part of the H. I think that helps to define a lot more structure, and in all honesty, that's really enough for their Throwie. From there, it's just a matter of getting cleaner shapes and organizing your baseline, mean line, and cap line. So right now, their Throwie is a bit compressed here. As you can see, they don't have a lot of space between the top of their L and the actual center and bottom of their L. So once again, with a little bit more refined shape work, and by extending their cap height a little bit higher and getting comfortable with that, they would have a cleaner Throwie as a result, because then they'd give themselves more room to build structure. Now right here, we have one of my favorite Throwies in the video. I mean, I love this Throwie, right? I want to get that out of the way real quick, because I don't want my critique to be taken as like, oh, he doesn't like the Throwie. No, this Throwie is awesome. What I really like about it is the originality with some of these letters that you really don't see all too often. For example, the F. I love this little break in the back. Really, really nice stuff. What I also really like is how they were able to bring more structure to the letter E right back here by suggesting that negative space. This is something we've talked about in plenty of videos, and it really helps the letter E to build a lot more structure. But as far as the critique is concerned, there's two big things that really stand out. Number one is their use of not only the baseline, but also the cap line. Now, their baseline is real nice. It's really refined. The letters abide by it, and everything works out well. But where we see a little bit of a difference is with the cap line, where not all letters really reach it or utilize it, and namely speaking, the F. Now, this one's really important because they break the F's structure up quite a bit, defining the top from the bottom, with lines such as this and this. Now, these two lines right here, what they do is they're really making the top portion smaller, breaking up a lot of that positive space, and it's that break in positive space that separates the top from the bottom. You can see that the L, for example, doesn't have that issue. It's one smooth, consistent bulk of positive space. Now, why this is important is because, well, because the F doesn't reach all the way up to the cap line, it looks a lot weaker on its top, and we want to go ahead and rebuild some of that strength. Now, I know there's an inherent inconsistency from one attempt to the next when it comes to Throwies, so there's gonna be times where you slip up on something like this, and that's why I want to recommend this as more as something to keep an eye out for. Make the conscious effort to have your F reach that cap line and all the other letters meet it there. As you can see here, we made the F a lot larger on the top, and part of the way we did that was we started this top section not only further back, but we also came at it at an angle, allowing us a little bit more room, a little bit more time to build that size to it. Not only that, we also made this section much larger, and the reason we did that was not only to give us more space to start the top with, but also so like that this back piece helps to be emphasized as much as that, because you have great letter uniformity and similarity with that little section, that little back piece of the F, and this piece of the L. From there, the next thing I really want to point out is the consistency with shapes. Once again, the shapes you decide for your image should be consistent, and this is just a fundamental of all art forms. This isn't even like just graffiti, this is just a fundamental of shape. And Throwies do a great job with this, as they usually have uniform tops, as we're seeing here, but they also usually have uniform bottoms. And that isn't to say that every letter needs to be the same, but elements should repeat. Now, let me be clear, what I like about what he's done is he's kept a bit of a pattern. The first letter has a diamond at the bottom, the second letter has a rounded, while the third letter is also rounded on the bottom, and then the last letter has that diamond as well. That's a great pattern to keep. I also played around with the idea of having different bottoms for some of these letters. For example, having one diamond and one round in order to help differentiate that pattern a little bit, going from diamond to round to diamond to round to diamond again. Then I played around with the idea of forgetting about the letter uniformity with this and this, which is an optional thing, but instead having letter uniformity with this, this, and that part of the F with this part of the L. That way, all three of these help to contribute more flow with that. Overall, great Throwie. I love the little nuances about this one. The nuances speak volumes for this graffiti artist. I really enjoy it. Alright, that just about wraps up today's video, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. How would you have helped some of these dudes? Also, if you're struggling with your tag name, leave it in the comments down below. Let me know what you write, and let me know what it is you're having problems with, and I'll try to get back to everybody with a few tips and tricks on what they can improve on. Help put them on the right path. And I'll even try to link videos if we have tutorials talking about something you've been struggling with. Now, if you want even more information and you want to start taking graffiti seriously, check out our new book in the description down below. It's the only one on the market that'll teach you all graffiti's fundamentals, and it'll take a lot of the stress out of this learning process, a lot of the guesswork is completely gone, making learning graffiti as convenient as possible. You'll learn all graffiti's fundamentals, how to find your style if you haven't found it yet, and how to develop that style. And all of that information is applicable to hand styles, throwies, and pieces. We have digital copies on our online store, theartistblock.inc, in the description down below, as well as physical copies over on Amazon. Pick it up today in the description down below. We also have the best how to do graffiti tutorials anywhere online right up here with more graffiti content right down here. I'll catch you guys back here next week. Thanks for watching.